Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. We will be starting very soon. We will start sharp at 3 p.m. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be starting very soon, within another minute. Please bear with us till then. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be starting sharp at 3 p.m., so another 30-40 seconds. So please bear with us until then. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's sharp 3 and we are ready to get started with our webinar today. My name is Devika and I will be moderating the session. Today we are going to talk about the self-drive, the Grand Tours of Switzerland, a very interesting topic that I'm sure all of you will love. I'm joined by Ameya Kamath, the Business Development Manager, Leisure for Switzerland Tourism. I'm sure all of you recognize Ameya, and he's a very familiar face when it comes to Switzerland tourism. Next, I have with me Mr. Fabian Beiner, Trade Representative, Grand Tours of Switzerland and Grand Train Tours of Switzerland. Thank you again for joining us today, Mr. Fabian. It's great to have you with us. Now, I'd like to hand it over to Ameya. Ameya, over to you to get us started with the webinar today.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our second webinar. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we are extremely excited to have you back on board for this particular webinar. We have a very special presentation in store for you this week. As you know, since travel is again possible to Switzerland, a lot of Indian travelers are looking for newer and more innovative products and offerings. So, self-drive has slowly become popular. It's gaining popularity. And Switzerland is also an extremely beautiful destination to embark on a self-drive at your own pace. So we are doing a presentation highlighting one of our most popular, prominent self-drive products called the Grand Tour of Switzerland. And then after that, we will take you through another very important product, especially since the Swiss Travel Pass and the public transportation system of Switzerland is extremely popular in the market. So you get to learn about the Grand Train Tour of Switzerland. Today we have Fabian with us from the Switzerland Travel Center, STC, and he will be conducting the presentation. Just to give you a quick few updates. Of course, for any information about our travel offerings and services, please log on to our website, myswitzerland.com. We have a newly launched our LinkedIn page. So if you're looking for any updates about Switzerland, as well as our activities in the market, do follow us on LinkedIn. Switzerland Tourism India, we are on LinkedIn. We have an e-learning program. Completing the same makes you a Switzerland travel expert, and you get a certificate for that. So if you have not registered yet, please do and complete all the modules to get the certificate. Our webinar recordings will be uploaded on our website as well. So in case you want to brush up on what you've learned today, you can log on to myswitzerland.com/STIndia webinars to see the recordings of all our previously conducted webinars since the time we started webinars. Just to keep you posted, given the current situation, there are some important links that you can use when guiding your clients when they wish to travel to Switzerland. On our website, we have a link that takes you that gives you an update about the business hours and operating status of our various Swiss suppliers, so you can get that information here. As of now, all our tourism attractions are operational and are ready to welcome back tourists. We also do have information about where you can do COVID-19 tests in Switzerland with a few options for your benefit, you can click on this particular link or log on to this link, and it'll take you to there and give you all the information that you need. This is specifically when requiring a test to come back to India from Switzerland. Some more helpful links. Our Federal Office of Public Health has created a travel check, which kind of identifies the conditions under which one can travel to Switzerland. So if somebody is looking to travel to Switzerland, they can log on to this travel check just to identify if they can, what are their requirements, will they need to quarantine or not. Entering Switzerland, there are some rules that were set by the FOPH. You can access them via this link on their website. And of course, our State Secretariat of Migration has created a document of FAQs that you can also view to kind of get information about your trip, traveling to Switzerland. In case there are any queries relating to travel procedure or visas, you can reach out to the Embassy of Switzerland visa section in New Delhi, as well as your contacts at BFS Global. Now, we at Switzerland Tourism are here to help you as well. So if you have any queries or you need any information or assistance regarding Switzerland and its various travel products, you can reach out to either of us. I look after leisure. My colleague Leandra D'Souza is your point of contact if there's anything to do with the public transportation network or the Swiss travel system. And if there are any queries relating to MICE and weddings, please do contact my colleague Aishwarya Guhagarkar. She heads MICE for India, and she will be happy to help you. For general queries, you can also write into us at india.trade@switzerland.com. Now, without much ado, I'm going to hand over the podium to my colleague Fabian, who will take you through the two fantastic products. Over to you. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Maya. Well, welcome from Zurich, and very great to have you joining for this session. Let me just introduce you what you're going to expect, what the goal is of today. Basically, we all hope you have heard of the Grand Tour and the Train Tour so far, but this is really giving you some insight and also some hints how to make it bookable and how to sell it to your customers. I was already introduced. I'm working for Switzerland Travel Center, which is a tour operator specialized for Switzerland, and I'm based here in Zurich. So let's get started with the poll question. And that's kind of relating on what I said before. So which of these below mentioned products have you heard about already? Is it the Grand Tour of Switzerland? Is it the Grand Train Tour of Switzerland, or both? Devika, if you can start the poll, I would be appreciate it.
I started the poll, so the results are coming in. 73% of the people have heard of both. 14% have heard of the Grand Train Tours of Switzerland, and 14% have heard of the Grand Tour of Switzerland.
Wow, that's amazing, and that tells me already I can go a bit more granular. Don't need to keep it on a very high level. So if you heard of the two products, I'll try to keep it very specific then. Thanks a lot. So then maybe let's start with some history and some facts around the Switzerland Grand Tour. About 6 years ago, this was Switzerland Tourism was their trend department, their market research department came up with the fact that touring was becoming more and more popular. So Switzerland Tourism kind of gathered together all the regions, all the destinations, and tried to kind of design a grand tour around Switzerland, which would kind of show the diversity and show the landscape, but also the cultural diversity in one tour. I mean, they were aiming high in terms of when they had kind of looked at the garden route in South Africa, for example, or the Route 66 in the US as being examples of what they wanted to achieve. But looking now, this is as we saw it now, 73% of you do know already the Grand Tour, so we're getting there. Then, obviously, given that Switzerland is very famous for its panoramic trains, for its public transport, it was logical that actually we want to have the brother or the sister of the Grand Tour, the Grand Train Tour, which is conducting all the public transport and the panoramic trains in one tour. So just a glimpse of what the Grand Tour is. So the Grand Tour itself is basically this this self-drive tour that takes you around Switzerland. We have some entry routes that come from Italy. We have one coming from Geneva or from Basel. But the main route, the core route, is the one you see here in red, going through all parts of Switzerland. We're later going to have a little bit of a deep dive into the different sections and the highlights on each section. At the same time, we have the Grand Train Tour, which is normally starting either in Zurich or Lucerne, going down to Montreux, up to Zermatt, and then taking Glacier Express up to St. and from here with the Bernina Express to Lugano, back to Lucerne. It's usually, you can see it, it's like a shaped laying 8 that you can imagine. And then there's also this add-on section of the Grand Train Tour, which actually takes you to the eastern part of Switzerland. Well, let's start with the Grand Tour. Well, let's start with second polling question. Which of the following have you booked before for your clients? Is it the Grand Tour, is it the Grand Train Tour, or both of them?
Friends, the questions on your screen, please do cast your vote quickly. So we have the results in. The Grand Tour of Switzerland has been booked 27 times. The Grand Train Tours of Switzerland have been booked 40%, and both are at 29%.
Okay, so the Grand Train Tour is obviously more popular right now in India. Yeah. Good to know. Thanks for your answers. So we do start with the Grand Tour of Switzerland. The picture you see here is the famous Tremolin. It's going down the Gotthard Pass. It's actually one of the most photographed routes and sections of the Grand Tour. And I think it's also one of the key visuals that Switzerland Tourism uses, and you can use also from the image database. So about facts and figures of the tour. It's a roughly 1,000-mile long trip. Again, it's hardly no highways. We tried to really design it the way that you have scenic roads, off the beaten tracks, and there's even for coaches, if you're planning to kind of run a grand tour with the coach, there's a different map that actually makes sure that the coaches with a certain height get through the smaller tunnels or the smaller passages of that route. We recommend a duration of at minimum 7 days. 8 days is ideal. It still gives you quite a bit of driving time per day, but again, it's not highway. It's really winding roads, scenic roads. So that's worth. It's kind of the trip is the journey. Best travel period is between April to October, and this is a bit dependent on obviously the snowfall. We had this season actually we had a lot of snow, so passes, the Alpine passes, wouldn't open until May or even early June. So then to really to be on the safe side, if you book for your customers, you rather book it from May until end of September, early October. So then you're on the safe side. The highest points you see is the Furka Pass, and the lowest obviously is the Lago Maggiore down in the south, the Italian half of the Italian part. Then what you see here are these photo spots. They're along the Grand Tour. They're perfect, and they're actually also used very much for social media posts, and we'll actually touch on these later on. Snackbox is also a tool that was installed by the Grand Tour. The Grand Tour as such used to be an association. So we had actually all the tourism boards on board, and we had sections. Each section had a responsible person in that region. So that actually made it possible to really make it an experience throughout the whole journey. Then your customers can also enjoy a tour guide. in different languages. We have an English tour guide and a fold-out map, but also, you know, the rental car companies do have specific GPS maps that actually have the Grand Tour registered on it. Then last but not least, the Swiss Coupon Pass. This is a product of ours. It's actually a voucher booklet with roughly 100 coupons where your customers can profit from restaurant deals, 2-for-1 activities, 2-for-1 restaurant deals, so they can save a lot of money on the Grand Tour. It's actually we once calculated the savings. If you do an 8-day Grand Tour and you eat and do some attractions, you can save up to 1,200 Swiss francs with that. So this is actually the physical booklet you see here. There's also a digital version of that can be purchased. So again, it's a diversity of one road trip. Switzerland is small, but you know the density of different regions, different cultures, different scenic landscapes is fantastic for such a road trip. Poll question number 3. Have you ever booked rental car self-drive tours for your FIT clients in Switzerland? Yes or no?
Friends, the poll is up on your screens. Please do cast your vote. So we have the answers in. It's 47% for yes and 52% for no.
Okay, wow, that's good. So now I would like to take you on a trip where we have an interactive map where I can really take you on this Grand Tour section by section, give you some insights on the highlights. So I'm switching to my screen now. I hope you can see it. So normally, and also, you know, given most of your customers, if they actually book for a Mono Swiss tour coming to Switzerland only, they would start in Zurich. They would arrive in Zurich Airport, and that's basically where normally our Grand Tour starts. The Grand Tour is designed to go along clockwise. All the signature, all the signing, and all the maps and all the tour guides are actually set up this way, that you move this way. So starting in Zurich, you know, depending on your arrival of the flight and whether they want to stay one night or if they want to kind of continue to Schaffhausen. Schaffhausen is famous for the Rhine Falls. It's actually one of the most visited spots in Switzerland because it's obviously right to the German borders. Many of the tours actually pass by there. Then you actually, the Grand Tour follows the river of Rhine along the Lake of Constance, with bordering to Austria and bordering to Germany. And one of the highlights and the stop, maybe a lunch stop or late afternoon stop, would be St. Gallen, before you're actually going to drive through Appenzell and make your way towards Graubünden. So after Mayenfeld, you're actually going towards Davos, up into the Engadine. So this is becoming really a windy road. It's actually alpine passes, so it's really scenic. But it's actually good for the ones, you know, who haven't been driving in Switzerland. In Switzerland, you drive on the right side of the road, so that's a bit of a change to what you're used to, what your customers are used to. Then obviously also I would say that, you know, driving passes, you know, alpine passes and winding roads is a bit of a new thing, but customers get into it very quickly. So we do suggest you overnight in St. Moritz. The hotels in St. Moritz do have quite an attractive offer in terms of that if you stay one night, you have in the past years, and I think it's also going to be next summer, that you have the mountain excursions included in your hotel, in your tourist card. And then from St. Moritz, you make your way up to passes, overpasses, down to the southern part of Switzerland, to Lugano. at the beautiful lake of the Lago di Lugano. You overnight here. You can also overnight in Locarno, which is famous for its film festival and other attractions and events during the summertime. And then you make it up the Gotthard Valley over the Gotthard Pass, and that's where you actually pass by the Tremola. Here you see it's really winding, and then you make your way down into the valleys, yeah, all the way down, and then from here you actually start climbing again towards Zermatt, the Matter Valley. You have to, your customers have to leave the car in Tesch because Zermatt is car-free. This is a big parking garage, and people take the train from there. They can easy change. There are trolleys for the luggage and everything, so it's perfectly organized and easy to change from car to the last stretch with the train. We suggest 2 nights in Zermatt to also have a good chance to view the Matterhorn, but also to actually explore one of the mountain railways and mountain excursions. So then next stretch is going towards the Lake of Geneva, down the lower part of the Valais and into the French-speaking part. Montreux is one of the highlights. You either overnight in Montreux or in Lausanne. In between is Vevey with the new famous Chaplin Museum. And from Lausanne, then it actually takes you to the Jura, so to the Watch Valley, where all the watches are made, all the big watch manufacturers are based, up to Neuchâtel, and then again down into the Bernese Oberland, up to Interlaken. Interlaken, obviously everyone knows the Jungfraujoch, and many more of the mountain excursions you can do from Interlaken. Heading towards Bern, the capital of Switzerland, also very famous with the UNESCO Old Town, UNESCO Heritage Site, Old Town. And then you slowly make your way back to Zurich through the winding roads of the Emmental, Hallwil. And then the last stretch is obviously going to Lucerne. And from Lucerne, this is Zurich, so you're actually going to Lucerne first, and then along the lake of Lucerne, there even is a stretch where you take a ferry boat, which is also quite exciting for people who have never been on a ferry boat, and then you actually make your way along the lake of Zurich back to Zurich. So this is it. This is the full stretch. And obviously what I said is, if you enter from Germany or from Paris, you could also start from here. If you start from the southern France part, from here, from Geneva, or from the Italian part. So I switching back. Devika, if you can, yeah, here we are, back on the presentation. So here's again, a couple of selling points why this Grand Tour is really worth doing. The passes are definitely one highlight. Driving passes is something that you cannot do anywhere else, in that density and that frequency. Switzerland is very famous for its lakes, for its fresh waters. So you have a lot of lakes you're passing by. And then obviously, what I said initially, Switzerland is multicultural in terms of we already have 4 languages. And 4 different regions with all their traditions and all that history behind it. Then the road maps, the road signs, the tour posts we'll touch on in a second. And then it's the electric road trip. We have the eGrand Tour. The eGrand Tour is actually exactly the same tour, but we have made sure that you have enough charging stations along the road. Either they are with the hotels directly. So we have in our packages, we have selected hotels that do have charging stations, or you have, for example, super charging stations for Tesla on the road. So it's actually easy to make your way through the Grand Tour with an electric car. And last but not least, 12 UNESCO World Heritage Sites are actually on the Grand Tour and 2 biosphere reserves, which can be visited and spend a little time and have a break. So not all customers will have 9 days, 8 nights time or 7 days. So we started, designing some smaller tours, shorter tours, and we named them quite pragmatically, where they are. The eastern part, the eastern route is obviously taking you to the eastern part, including the southern part of Ticino, and then you just, shortcut through the over the Gotthard Pass, include Lucerne, and that's about a 6-day, 5 nights tour. Then going clockwise, the Grand Tour Northern route is including Basel and kind of connecting Zurich and Basel for a loop here. And then last but not least, we have the French part, the western part, which you can either start from Geneva or you can start from the Ticino or somewhere from Lucerne and actually do this part. So this again, 6 days, 5 nights. So this is about the length we forecast for that stretches. Good. Now we come to the signs. These signs, it was actually not an easy thing to get that done. A lot of admin challenges with the government, but finally we have made it to actually, have 650 signposts put up. So even without the map or without the GPS, you can navigate your way easily along the Grand Tour. But it's also a good marketing platform, obviously, for the Swiss people that see the Grand Tour all the time when they're kind of driving by and realize that they're actually on the Grand Tour, which they wouldn't have known otherwise. The snack box is a pretty cool invention. Was kind of introduced about 3 years ago. So basically these boxes you can buy at different smaller shops with regional products. You buy the box and it's going to be filled with local products of that region. And once you have them eaten up, you actually just refill it in one of the next shops and you can keep the box at the end. So it's quite a good way of, also exploring the culinary side of Switzerland. Grand Tour photo spots we touched on. There's also a prize draw actually connected to these ones. So if you scan a QR code at the photo spots, you will be entering into a prize draw, and that's quite popular too. So you can win Grand Tour trips or additional benefits. The Grand Tour, the e-Grand Tour, was kind of initiated or kind of introduced about 2 years later, and it's all about the sustainable way of traveling. And by now, there are also all the bigger rental car companies do have e-cars available. At Zurich Airport, you have a good fleet of electric cars you can rent out. So I think before we're ending the Grand Tour, I would like to show you the latest clip that we have, that Switzerland Tourism has brought out. This is with Bastian Baker. So perfect. Again, Bastian Baker designing this or composing this song for the Grand Tour. So this is the perfect moment to actually change to the Grand Train Tour. And as we heard, most of you or more of you have ever booked or have known about the Grand Train Tour. So let's go deep dive into this product. So let's start with facts and figures again. It's, probably basically easiest described as really the compilation of all the panoramic trains that we have, and being connected with normal stretches of SBB, the Swiss Federal Railways routes. It combines Swiss cities, alpine resorts. Swiss cities, the benefit of using a Swiss travel pass also is that within the cities you have free transportation with the Swiss travel pass, and also if we go look at the mountain excursions, I mean, with the Swiss travel pass, again, most of them are 50% reduced. Some of them are included, some with slightly lower reduction, but definitely the right ticket to have. And same goes for the Swiss museums. Within the Swiss travel pass, you have more than 300 museums included, so free entrance to these museums. So we could recommend that product, Swiss Travel Pass, to be, the basis of any train tour. And next year there's going to be a 6-day Swiss Travel Pass, which then obviously makes it even easier to kind of combine or kind of design your package in the way that you want it lengthwise. Same as the Grand Tour, it takes you through all the regions of Switzerland, include 3 alpine passes by train, which are also quite unique. And this one can be traveled year round. And also my favorite time of the year is somewhere in April, because then down in the lower parts of Switzerland, you have already the, spring and kind of nature blossoming. And then on the other hand, you have in the mountains, you still have snow caps. You still actually, the paths are still snow covered. You have a bit of both, but it's a year round. So you have a winter Grand Train Tour, which we'll touch on later, and you have different versions of the summer Grand Train Tour. Total length, 1,280 kilometers, slightly shorter than the Grand Tour. But again, it's this laying 8 I mentioned in the beginning, if you want to visualize it. So here's the visualization again. If your customers start in Zurich, they actually make their way with normal trains. Every half an hour, you have a train directly from Zurich Airport to Lucerne. And most of our customers do overnight in Lucerne, maybe add an extra night, or already continuing to Interlaken. Jungfrau Joch, definitely a must for all the first timers going to Switzerland. And then from there, this is, by the way, this is the Interlaken Express as a panoramic train. They have also upgraded all their wagons, all their trains with bigger windows and so on. And then from here, you take the Golden Pass Express down to Montreux. Being in Montreux overnight here, having some excursions to be done around Roche-Tenay as a quick mountain excursion, or Chaplin Museum, or the Château Chillon. Then you make your way up the valley into the Motter Valley to Zermatt, where you overnight before you take the Glacier Express from Zermatt up to St. Moritz. It's about an 8-hour drive. Train ride with they're serving lunch. You can choose between a 2 and a 3-course meal, and also now they have the Excellence class, which you might have heard of, which is a very it's a kind of a VIP carriage with single seating and concierge service and butler service at your seat. Overnighting St. Moritz before you take the Bernina Express. The Bernina Express, how we included it in the Grand Train Tour, is the train up to Tirano. And from there, you change to the bus, the Bernina Express bus, which takes you along Lake Como, along Lago di Lugano to Lugano. Overnight in Lugano, and then take the final stretch towards north with the Gotthard Panorama Express. The Gotthard Panorama Express has now gained a lot of value in terms of, this is the scenic route that takes you over the Gotthard Pass, over the mountains. While you probably have heard of the new tunnel that was opened last year, 57-kilometer tunnel, a railroad tunnel, is the longest in the world, that take you from around here, from the Ticino, right up to around here through the Alps. So, but the Gotthard Panorama Express is actually train from either Lugano or Locarno, you can choose both, and it takes you to Flüelen, where you just change from train to boat, and you take the boat all along the Lake of Lucerne to Lucerne. And then the add-on, or kind of the last stretch, is the Voralpen Express, which takes you from Lucerne up over around Mount Rigi, Rapperswil, up to St. Gallen. And from St. Gallen, there are regular trains taking you to Zurich or Zurich Airport directly in every half an hour. So that's the Grand Train Tour. And again, we have also here started to kind of breaking it down into shorter loops, shorter tours, because we knew that not everyone has 8 days and 7 nights or doesn't want to spend so much time on the train, because the 8-day, 7-night tour is a lot of train rides. But again, like with the Grand Tour, this is the 5 hours drive a day. It's like the journey is the experience itself. The Classic Tour, again, some selling arguments for you. All the 6 scenic panoramic trains. You have the top sites, including the Lago Vineyard Terrace, where the train comes out, and you have a good connection to all the mountain excursions. But also you touch, or you include, all the cities that are famous in Switzerland. Now, looking at these shorter tours, or again, these different versions of tours, the original is the full tour, including the loop in the eastern part. So you really have everything included. And then a bit of the shorter version, where we leave out this last stretch into the eastern part, is this line 8 I mentioned already a couple of times. Then we have the tour called the Top Attractions, which is a combination of Interlaken Express, Golden Pass, and Glacier Express to Chur, 5 days, 4 nights, and then the same, the equal part is then on the eastern side of Switzerland, where you combine the Bernina Express with the Gotthard Panoramic Express, also 4 days, 3 nights. And last but not least, we have 2 smaller tours. One is called Stunning Waters. This is the one really then just the eastern part with Appenzell, with St. Gallen, but starting or ending in Lucerne. Hidden Treasures is a bit of a combination of both. So it actually takes you through Domodossola. So you actually, this is a bit, that's why it's called Hidden Treasures, because this train, the Centovalli Express, is not so much known. You actually start in Brieg, you take a train through the Italian part to Domodossola, and from Domodossola you have the Centovalli Express going directly to Locarno. So it's a bit of connecting the Valle with the Ticino in a very different and scenic way. And then again, it's the Gotthard Panorama Express taking you back to Lucerne. So it's a bit hidden treasure. It's a bit a tour that is, if you want to offer your customers something special, this is it. Now the customers do have also, like the photo spots, the snack box. There's an app to kind of guide the customers along the tour. It actually tracks your rides. It tracks your path. There are games. There are gifts. It's a fun app to use. For the ones who are more into paper, there is still this, you might have seen it before, it's this little red booklet, the Grand Train Tour stamp book, where you actually, on all the bigger destinations, you have this little stamp poles where you can have your booklet stamped, and it's kind of a perfect souvenir. So especially with the Asian guests, it's very popular. They're really collecting the stamps and keep them as a souvenir. So I think we have another video to kind of close off with the Grand Train Tour. Perfect, thank you. So I think the last slide, one of the last slides is where to find more information. Obviously, it's on myswitzerland.com. You have very interactive and comprehensive sections for the Grand Tour and the Grand Train Tour itself. You have also a lot of downloads available. There is even a GPS tracking download. So go visit this site and find out what you can be using for your sales in the future. I guess we come to poll question number 4. Would your FIT customers be willing to pay extra for luggage transfer from hotel to hotel along the Grand Train Tour of Switzerland? Yes, available needed service, or no, not necessary.
So this is the first time we've got such an overwhelming response. We are at 86% saying yes, and the remaining saying no.
Okay, perfect. So let me give you a bit of an insight of what's happening in the background. So as you all know, for the group, there is luggage transport available right now. It's just for FIT, it's quite costly. So SBB is offering that you can have a hotel-to-hotel transfer, but just for 2 people or a small family, it's quite costly. On the other hand, there is the group luggage transfer, which makes it easy and has actually helped to shift a lot of the coach tours onto the Grand Train Tour and making rail-only tours, because this luggage service is affordable. It's around 300 Swiss francs per transfer from hotel to hotel. So you count that, have 8 overnights, counted 8 times, and you have your luggage taken care of from the first hotel to the last hotel. The good thing about this, obviously, it's not only hassle-free, that you don't need to worry about your luggage if this is shipped, but the benefit you have is obviously you can travel differently. You can actually maybe take the route over, include a mountain excursion if you don't have your luggage along. So that kind of opens up totally new opportunities if luggage transfer is available. There is some efforts from SBB and also Switzerland Tourism now to kind of bring that FIT, make that FIT luggage transfer from destination to destinations also cheaper. And hopefully we'll have already something to propose to you in next summer or latest in 2023. So, but that helps definitely to learn that you would judge that as a very valuable and needed service. We see it the same way, so we're working on that. To that question, the pricing, that would also be very interesting to hear. Where do you see kind of the the price break for such a service per person taking an 8-day trip on a Grand Train tour? How much would your customers be willing to pay for that service? Up to 150, up to 200, or up to 250 francs per person?
So we have around 60% people saying that up to 150 francs, 33% saying up to 200 francs, and 6% saying more than up to 250 francs per person.
Okay. Well, obviously, we want to make it as cheap as possible, but still there's a service included. So we need to understand a bit what the willingness to pay is of the different markets, of the different customers. But that definitely helps as well. Thank you. Good. Booking the Grand Tour and the Grand Train Tour, it's the Grand Tour is quite simple. At the end, the basis is hotels along the tour and a rental car. For the ones obviously out of Switzerland, out of the neighboring countries, it's just the hotels that they book. They come with their own car. And with the Grand Train Tour, it's a Swiss travel pass, a hotel, and don't forget the seat reservations. So all the panoramic trains do have a seat reservation, which is mandatory or at least recommended. I think the only one that doesn't have it mandatory is the Interlaken Express and the Voralpen Express. So if you don't want to put it together yourself, there are tour operators in India who we operate with, who do offer the Grand Train Tour or the Grand Tour products. Some of them, Swiss Tours, Optila, Traveloids, Make My Trip, but there are many more. If you're in need of a contact, then the India team is happy to help you. So then it's on me to say thank you for the time spent with us and the interest you showed towards these two products. And we're looking forward to have many of your guests, maybe even you, hopefully, in Switzerland, hopefully very soon. I think I'm handing over to you, Ameya or Devika, right?
Thanks, Fabian. So before we get into the Switzerland tourism quiz, we also have the Q&A session. There were a lot of questions that were coming in during the course of the presentation. So I have a couple. So the first question, is in general. There were a few comments with regards to the direct flights. So like I mentioned during the previous webinar last week, Swiss has not resumed operations from India to Switzerland yet, as India does not have a travel bubble in place between with Switzerland. Currently, of course, it is a diplomatic decision on starting direct flights and operating travel bubbles. So as soon as we have an update on that front, we will of course let you know. Do note that with regards to the recordings of the webinar and the presentation, they will all be shared with you, so you can again brush up your knowledge or rewatch, to kind of get the points that you missed out. So don't worry about it. And the slides also have information on the links that you can log on to get information about the current travel situation, travel procedure to Switzerland. So you can, go through that information and update yourselves on that. There was a question on Indian food, of course, in Switzerland. Yes, there are a lot of Indian restaurants in Switzerland. And if you use our website, myswitzerland.com, you can get access to information about the various restaurants. You just need to search on our website, and you will get details about the various Indian restaurants that are there in Switzerland. There was a question regarding the Bernina Express, and since Indians are not allowed in Italy, how would it be possible? So yes, of course, that is a little bit of a complicated situation. So for the Bernina Express, your clients can still use travel within Switzerland. So if you are booking them on that experience, make sure you book them on that leg that just goes up within Switzerland. So, Fabian, now the questions for you start. Is the Indian license valid in Switzerland, or does one require an international license to to drive a car there?
No, that's it's valid. Again, what I mentioned is really just the fact that we're driving on the other side of the road, like most countries in Europe. So that's something you definitely need to tell your customers, but they will know as well if they do the research about self-drive.
There were many questions actually about the flexibility of both the Grand Tour of Switzerland and the Grand Train Tour. So if, for example, you either book it through one of your partners or the travel agent directly makes his own package, do they need to book the entire journey, or can it be broken into parts, or how flexible is it?
Well, it's actually very flexible. I mean, it's meant to give a guidance of where to go and which route to take. I guess the limitation of flexibility is a bit on the Grand Train Tour with the ticket. If you have let's say an 8-day Swiss travel pass, you might switch to a flex pass, which you also all know, which gives you certain days within a month, so people can stay more nights in one destination before traveling on, and still having the Swiss travel pass being valid along their journey. But no, there's no such. You can actually side trip wherever you want, stop wherever you want. It's really just a good guidance.
Thank you so much for that. Can the agent or even the traveler combine the best of both worlds? Combine the Grand Tour of Switzerland with the Grand Train Tour?
Yeah, it's a bit tricky, because you have still within Switzerland, even though it's small, you have these so-called one-way rental fees. So it needs to be checked with the rental car companies, which stretches, maybe between, let's say, between Zurich and Geneva, there is no one-way rental fee. But other than that, it's quite common, because they have to have someone driving back the car into the fleet where you originally rented it. So that's the only tricky part. But other than that, it could be combined. Yeah.
The next question is an interesting one. It's regarding applicable tolls in Switzerland, as well as parking, and the average cost of the parking, if at all, if you're driving.
That's a good question. The toll is easy answer. If you rent a car, you have this license. It's a yearly license that all rental cars do have already, so you don't need to pay any additional tolls. On the other hand, yes, the parking is included in some hotels, and then again, it comes down to really picking the right hotels. Some hotels that are listed on My Switzerland, for example, along with the Grand Tour section, many of them offer free parking, especially in the cities. It's quite costly, so you easily look at 20 to 25 francs for a parking lot in the cities, while in the mountain destinations, obviously there is a bit more space. They're used to people coming with the car. It's often free of charge.
Thank you. And just a little add-on to that question. For example, if you're doing an e-Grand Tour of Switzerland and you're parking at a hotel, and of course you'll need to charge your car, do the hotels charge you for that particular facility, or is it included in the parking?
Still, most of the hotels included, because they see it as a service. You don't pay extra. It's just limited. Some have maybe just one charge station, some have 3, 4. And then again, it depends on what kind of charging you need. But there again, you find with the details of the hotels, they also provide nowadays these details about usually see how many parkings of which how many you have with charging stations.
Fantastic. Can one do a Grand Tour of Switzerland on a two-wheeler?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yes, I mean, sorry, I didn't really mention it. I once mentioned the bus, the coach, and we have specific routes on that. And yes, you can rent motorcycles, or you can obviously, from India, it's probably not as convenient, bring your own. But if you have a bigger tour and you want to ship your motorcycle to Switzerland, also possible. But there are rental companies that do rent out motorcycles from Harley to smaller ones. Even motorcycles are available by now.
Awesome. So guys, you can even do an e-journey with your clients when you book it for them. Just wanted to reconfirm with you all the excursions in Switzerland along the Grand Tour, Grand Train Tour. More for the Grand Tour. They do have parking facilities available in and around them, right?
Yeah, definitely. They have, because some of them are, many of them are accessible in Switzerland. Everything is accessible by public transport, but still out of convenience, also a lot of Swiss take the car to some of the mountain railways or so. So they're used to provide parking.
Thank you so much. So here's a very interesting question. Considering that this is slowly becoming a new travel trend for the India market, which is winter travel, and of course with the winter season coming in and with travel being possible, looking forward to a lot of Indians traveling in the winter. Is it easy to combine GTOS or GTTOS with a ski holiday, and how would you go about it?
Obviously, as I mentioned, the Grand Tour itself, you will miss out on the scenic passes because most of them are closed during the winter season because they have snow. They're not prepared, so you have to kind of divert from the original route. But you can combine it easily. You can even buy, you can rent ski equipment in the destinations, or if you want to bring your own, you can even rent a ski rack with the rental car company. But I think more popular, obviously, is the Winter Grand Tour. It's called the Winter Magic Grand Tour, which is a combination of the most beautiful winter panoramic trains.
So you'd recommend that the ideal time if somebody has to drive would be summer and autumn?
Summer, yeah. Okay. Yeah, otherwise you miss out on many of the very scenic drives across the passes, the Alpine passes. They're just simply, otherwise you would just need to take the tunnel instead, which is convenient but not as scenic.
Great. Thank you so much for that. And of course, and here's an interesting question as well. Basically, India, of course, has a huge population of vegetarian travelers. So if somebody opts for the Grand Tour and they opt to go ahead and pick up the snack boxes to travel and sample local cuisine from different regions of Switzerland, are vegetarian options available, or you have like a fixed menu that you have to then purchase?
No, well, normally there is a fixed one, but these are all small shops and they're actually up for convenience for the customer. So they will put something together that can be vegetarian. The vegetarian or even vegan is very popular, or becoming more and more popular in Switzerland. By now you have vegan restaurants, vegetarian restaurants you have for some time already. So I don't think this should be any problem. Also with the snack box, it's just going to be a different selection of products then.
Great. So correct me if I'm wrong, the snack boxes were to kind of use the Grand Tour to sample the cuisine diversity in Switzerland, right? So obviously Indian food will not be an option on the snack box.
No. But the snack box, this is meant for kind of the picnic on the road, the flexibility of the Grand Tour is obviously you can stop anywhere and anytime. And that was kind of the basis of the idea that you take along such a snack box and you picnic or you stop and eat your lunch wherever you want. But as you said earlier, Amey, there's a lot of Indian restaurants in the tourism destination. So for dinner, no problem to have Indian food everywhere.
Great. Indian food is something that a lot of Indian travelers want to sample. So those questions keep coming in. Booking the Swiss Coupon Pass, how does one go about it? And is it available in an e-format?
Yes, it is actually available as a digital version. It's based on iWallet. You can download it, and with the digital one, you can also have only sections. So there, you actually can book it on our site on switzerlandtravelcenter.com, and you can book both. The physical version you can either have shipped to India for your customers, or you can have it delivered to the airport. or the digital version obviously is going to be sent with a link to you, and you can forward to your customer.
Fantastic. And just with regards to the Grand Tour, it is possible for a client to, like literally land in Zurich or Geneva and hop in their car and then go onwards, right?
Yeah, it's actually both. It's very simple. Also for the Grand Train Tour, the train station is in the airport. So are the rental car companies. You have all of the international brands from Hertz, Europcar. You also have brokers there. Everything can be. They have a big parking lot, and pretty much you have the bigger choice of cars at the airport than in the city center. Yeah. The only thing is, if you want to go to Zurich and overnight in Zurich for the first night, you're better off not taking the car at the airport. Otherwise, it's you need to find parking. You pay for parking, so maybe start then picking up the car in one of the city locations.
Great. I see the snack box question actually got a lot of buzz. People are asking about an approximate pricing. Is there something that you can update them about?
Yeah, hold on a sec. So there's a small booklet like that. So the snack box itself is 25 Swiss francs. And again, it's a souvenir which you can keep. And then the filling for 2 persons is 20 francs. So it's quite affordable, and it actually gives you enough food, for a picnic, for a lunch. So it's actually a very good option. Yeah. And you have in total, you have, I think, about 45, 46 shops along the Grand Tour. I can maybe show it quickly like that. So there is a map which you will find online as well, where all these shops are, which you can direct your customers to. Quite popular.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to getting the opportunity to do that, and I'm sure many of the people here, along with their clients, are. I'm going to take one final question. Just wanted to update everybody as well. Fabian, if you can say, if you know that the Swiss Travel Pass is an extremely popular product in the India market, right? Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, it comes with so many wonderful benefits, and with 50% off on mountain excursions, Rigi, Stanserhorn, Clovenalp, and Bruni, and all these mountain excursions included, over 500 museums included, and unlimited travel on the train. So it kind of enhances the Grand Train to a great extent. Do you have something similar, or does the Grand Train Tour does the Grand Tour of Switzerland have something similar that that people can avail of? You had mentioned the coupon booklet, so is that something that you can buy as to complement the Grand Tour of Switzerland?
Yes, I mean initially when we started this collaboration with the Grand Tour and Switzerland Tourism on that booklet, we really aimed at the Grand Tour and all our coupons with activities and entrances and so on are designed along the Grand Tour. You have section by section. So I'll invite all of you, go on switzerlandtravelcenter.com, look at, you can browse through the catalog and see what kind of benefits there are. I mean, it's going to come out again on 1st of December. It's always going to be valid for a year. And again, it can be also purchased at the airport in Zurich or some bookshops in Switzerland. So it's kind of a good complementary guide to have, companion for the tour.
Great. So, I mean, I know I was going to sign off with that last question, but there's one really important question. Somebody asked if insurance is included in your rental when you take a car on the Grand Tour.
Yeah. Well, normally, I mean, it's like everywhere. If you have rental cars, the basic insurance, the CDW is included, the crash damage waiver with a certain what do you call it? Forgot the word. The redemption. Yourself, the one if you have an accident, the one you pay yourself. So the coverage, and then obviously they're more than willing to sell you additional coverage. But this can be quite costly. But normally we recommend people to go with this one, with this included crash damage waiver, which actually covers all your necessary insurances.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Fabian, for being a part of this webinar and updating our travel trade about the two very popular and soon to be even more popular products. And we hope to see, slowly as things become clearer and restrictions ease a little bit more, lots more Indians, returning back to a destination that they love traveling to, that's Switzerland. So that being said, I will move to the quiz. So this is something that you guys have been waiting for. All those from the travel trade who attend all the webinars, answer all the questions correctly, stand a chance of being selected for a fam trip to Switzerland in 2022. So before we get into the questions, just a few house rules to keep in mind. Answer the question via the link provided. So the link is available in the offers section of your platform tool. Click on offers and you will be able to access the link. Only answers via the link will be considered. So no emails or answers put on the chat box, they won't be considered. Deadline for answering the quiz is 7 p.m. today. All answers after that will not be considered. Only those attendees from the Indian travel trade tuning in to all the webinars and answering all the quiz questions correctly and as per the guidelines rules that I've mentioned earlier will be eligible for this opportunity to win the trip or be part of the trip. And please do ensure that you fill in all the information correctly. That includes your contact number, your work email ID, your location, your company name. Personal email IDs will not be considered. And for any queries or information that you need in general about Switzerland, about its travel products, please do not hesitate to contact us on india.trade@switzerland.com. So here are the quiz questions for you. The Grand Tour of Switzerland spans across how many kilometers in total? What unique thing can be found in many of the scenic spots during the Grand Tour of Switzerland that will leave travelers with a lasting memory of their experience there? Question 3, how many charging stations are there along the Grand Tour of Switzerland? Question 4, which of the below mentioned are panoramic train journeys? So it's a multiple choice question. Question 5, what is the best generic ticket to use along the Grand Train Tour of Switzerland? Question 6, what is the ideal length of the Train Tour of ideal length for the Grand Train Tour of Switzerland package that you can sell your clients? And 7 and final, can the GTOS or the Grand Tour of Switzerland can be easily combined with the Grand Train Tour of Switzerland? True or false? So the link is there in the offer section. Kindly, and it's also been put on the chat box. Kindly log on to it and send in your answers before 7 p.m. today. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending and being part of our webinar series. Fabian, if you have any message for our travel trade, please.
Well, yeah, one last thing that reminded me when you said it's going to become more popular, the Grand Tour, for example. I mean, it has proven to be the perfect way of traveling during COVID times, because you can be very much self-isolated with your loved ones you travel with or your family. So basically the only touch points you have with other people, if you want, is obviously in the hotels. But driving with your own car is probably the safest thing you can do right now. But also the public transport, we need to say, are safe. We have mask mandates and so on. So it's all, and we have enough space on the trains. So that's probably the last message I have for you. So it's go ahead, book it for next season, or even, as Amaya mentioned, there is a need for travel, and the winter might be the perfect next season. You can send your people to Switzerland on one of these, especially on the Grand Train Tour. So thanks a lot for having me, Amaya and Vedika, for organizing, and looking forward to see you or your customers in Switzerland soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you everybody for attending. Devika, do you have any final messages? Just one before you say, guys, we have another webinar coming up next week on the Swiss travel system. That is everything you need to know about the Swiss Travel Pass and all the services and products offered by Switzerland's most perfect public transportation network. So please do tune in. It's on the 9th of September at 3 p.m. India Standard Time.
Thank you. That's my closing message as well.
Oh.
Please see you on the 9th. Everybody, please don't forget to log in. Thank you so much for being with us today. And thank you to our speakers as well. Thank you for joining us. It was lovely to have you guys with us. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
See you.